Our first item on the agenda is actually a public hearing for the 2023-24 budget. So I will now close the regular session and open the public hearing for the budget. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak for the public hearing on the 23-24 budget? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Next is accentuate the positive.
Hey, good evening, board. Oh, can you hear me? Good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shauna Schleif, principal here at Phoenix Elementary. It's good to see everyone. It's been a busy spring. I just want to start off by kind of talking about our spring showcase that we had last week, which was a culmination of all of our hard work that we've done with our focus on reading. So we had a family engagement evening here where we celebrated our success, had an art show, and then ended with tamales and chips out in the covered area, and just it was a beautiful evening. So that was really special for here at PES. We also have some upcoming events. We're going to have our second annual Garden and Family Sing Night here in the front lawn, with just honoring our partnership with Rogue Valley Farm to School and with Rogue World Music. So that'll be just a fun little celebration. We did one last year, and it was just really sweet. So we're looking forward to that next Tuesday. We also have next Tuesday, we're really looking forward to the 4th and 5th grade all-district elementary track meet. Our kids are really pumped for that. They've been practicing, doing their hands off, and for the relay, and Heidi Roberts has done a really good job of like really helping them understand all of the aspects of this upcoming track meet. So we're excited about that. We also have field day coming up, and our 5th grade promotion on the last day of school. Lastly, I just want to say a big shout out. We have 4 female staff members who are about to have babies this month and next month. And so we just want to wish them well. I want to give a shout out to Strength for Aracima, for Tiffany, for Emma, and for DeLacy as they welcome 4 new babies into our world. We're excited to have some new junior pirates. Also want to share, Aaron couldn't be here tonight, so I'm speaking on behalf of PTRA. He said that we will be conducting our annual Chromebook return on Friday, June 9th from 10 to 12 in Otto Castor Park next to PES. To spice things up a little bit, they're calling it a Popsicles in the Park, trying to get as much of the technology back. And so they're hoping everybody who shows up, or they basically are saying they hope everybody who shows up, parents, students, siblings, random strangers, they're all going to get a popsicle. It's all good. They're also excited about their enrollment has crested this year at a long time high of 61 students, including a whopping 41 middle schooler students. As you recall, they started the year with only 30 students, and so they're pretty excited about the growth that they've had in the program this year. And that they're excited to serve the district families in their unique setting. We also wanted to share we will be sending our 8th graders off in style on Tuesday, June 6th. We'll be taking all of them on a Hellgate boat excursion. We'll leave PES at 12:30 and return at 4:30, and then we'll host a ceremony to celebrate the accomplishments with their families from 5 to 5:30 at Otto Castor Park. And then board members are welcome to attend.
Good evening, board and everybody. Heather Lowe, the principal over at Talent Elementary. It's nice to see you. Tweedledee and Tweedledum here. We could say ditto most of the time. We had our showcase last night, our spring showcase, and it was phenomenal. Much similar to Shauna, just great celebration of the year's work. I do want to publicly thank Kathleen Lemke and Rosario Medina. They lead our family engagement team for our school. And, you know, just the work that goes into pulling off a really big school-wide event like that with community partners, it was just fantastic. So thanks Rosario and Kathleen, and then all the other staff who volunteered to help. Also, I would share that Shauna and I will be conducting some appreciative interviews with some families from our buildings next week, kind of in search of better understanding. You know, we've been grappling with, you know, our attendance concerns and such. And so really kind of digging into some equity work around sense of belonging and how that is tied to a student's attendance. So we're going to be doing that next week. We're excited to share what we learned from that experience. We are, speaking about 5th graders, I was going to say 5th graders. So I want to say thanks to Catherine, Allison, and Erica. Today we had our 5th graders, all the 5th graders from the district, took a trip on over to TMS. I bet you guys remember that day. the big transition to middle school. And so they did a great job, just setting the stage for what it will be like and taking tours. So thank you to you guys. And also our 5th grade promotion is on right before the 8th grade promotion. We are trying to stagger that. So families who have 5th graders at TES can also go from 5th grade up to 8th grade. So that'll be on the 12th, the evening of the 12th at 4:30 to 5:30. And then they can walk across the street to TMS for their celebration. Also, we do have field day coming up, and ours happens to land on senior walk day. So that's going to be fun for our Talent Elementary alum because they'll come down, we'll do a walk, and it will also be our kind of crazy day for kids. So we're excited to welcome you back from Pettit. And that's it from TES.
Hello, board. Brandon Hammond, Orchard Hill Elementary. You should have a piece of paper in front of you, some lines on it, colors, nice and pretty. So before I do that, the end of the year is always crazy. All the stuff, we're doing so many things, and just a shout out to our staff who are very, very patient with me specifically. And all the things that I throw out them. I really am grateful for their patience and understanding. And you can just see on this piece of paper that this is the fruit. This is the fruit of all the effort. So this is iReady. The top 2 lines are reading. And I'm just talking about students right now. So in fall, we had 75 students in the green. At the end of the year, we're not quite done. Everything should be officially done tomorrow. But as of today, we had 183 in the green. Amazing. 99 in the red. We want to shrink that. That went to 49. So amazing growth. And then in math, start out with 28 in the green, jump to 121, and then 101 in the red, and drop that down to 42. So cool to see that. And the very bottom is the dibbles. So we had started off the year with about 168 students in the red and ended with 132. And then in the green and blue, that's the upper where we want the kids to be, started with 113 and ended with 150. So like all the effort, everything, like this is what you look for, right? So it's so cool. Mrs. Engstrom and Mrs. Evans put this lovely spreadsheet together. So shout out to them. That is it.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Catherine Holden, principal of Talent Middle School. We wanted to say a shout out to an awesome group of 7th and 8th graders, part of Peter Daney and Peter Edwards' homeroom classes, who put together a time capsule. And so that was just buried last week. It's in the courtyard at Talent Middle School, and it was filled with letters and artifacts and even some masks, I guess, and some other things. And then they made a great little plaque that has a nice bulldog on it. And it's going to be opened in the year 2035, which is the 75th anniversary of Talent Middle School, or that building, I think. So we just want to thank those 2 teachers for making that happen. And the kids had a lot of fun with that. And Joe did a great video of it as well. So thank you, Joe. Also, our 8th grade events went really well this week. We did have the evening event, we had parents and families come in the evening event, and at least over half of the families that we expect to be there next year were at the event. It was a really nice turnout, and our 6th grade teachers did a great job showcasing the programming for our 6th graders when they come in, as well as then this week we also today had the 5th graders come for the tours, and that was really fun to have all the kids there on site. So thank you for everybody who made that happen. And it just reminded us, those events obviously take a lot of different people's effort. Staff come together, organize, set things up, show up, talk to the kids. So just a big thank you to all the staff and our district partners who showed up for the evening event. And lastly, we're excited about our end of the year activity coming up. Our talent show is happening a week from tomorrow. We're looking forward to seeing our students showcase their incredible talents, and our staff who are working really hard on rehearsing a special performance that we're excited to share with the students as well. And so we want to give a big thank you to Jamie Ditburner for planning the talent show, and Lori Fuller, who's been the staff organizer for the staff performance. As well as we have a field day coming up too, and then of course our 8th grade recognition celebration ceremony that's happening on June 12th in the evening at 6 o'clock. A lot to be excited for.
Good evening, Kaylin Cross at the high school. Lots of things going on at the high school, just like everybody said, lots everywhere. But a few things we want to make sure that we are shouting out about. Today, we got a report from our credit retrieval teacher, Miss Roseanne Pond, who's a miracle worker, in case you haven't met her. And we have 12 senior students who are now on track to graduate that were not last month. And so just really wanted to shout out for her efforts and the students who are working really hard in that class. We also are in the midst of our capstone presentation preparations and really doing a lot of coordinating. So I wanted to shout out to Kelly Fogg Johnson and Zachy. They're both our senior English teachers who are just rocking it and really getting kids prepared for those presentations. And also to Brenda in the Media Center, who's coordinating and making it all happen. Lots of planning and preparation for our upcoming graduation ceremony on June 10th. We are excited for you all to join us at 4 p.m. I wanted to make sure you all know the blood, sweat, and tears that are happening to go into just the ceremony piece of it. And shout out to Anna Redding, who's coordinating all the seats and all of the intricacies around that. And also Myra Silva, our office manager, who's checking all of the programs, making sure everything's organized and ready to go. We had a freshman field day a while ago. Wanted to shout out to Link Crew and Carolina Campbell for making magic happen with some kids. And then also we welcomed our 8th grade, soon to be 9th graders over to our school yesterday, I think. The band played, so we wanted to shout out to Mike DeRose. Our clubs and athletics had reps available so students could learn about ways to plug in. And our leadership led an awesome assembly. So just wanted to say thank you for that. That's all for us.
Hi, everyone. Dave Earhart, Phoenix High School. We're wrapped up one season with our spring sports. Over the weekend, we had 10 kids go up to Hayward Field in Eugene, represented us at the State Track and Field Championships, did a great job. That was on Saturday when we finished. On Monday, Tuesday, we started summer sports practices, getting ready for the fall. But we're really pleased with our turnout. 50 kids for football, 45 boys soccer, 9 cheerleaders tonight. We've got basketball going on. We've got volleyball going on. We've got a lot of stuff. So we're really pleased with that. Speaking of goings on out at the fairgrounds at the expo for the next 4 days is our spring fair. We've got our FFA kids out there. They're doing a great job. As Shauna mentioned, on Tuesday, the next week will be our 4th and 5th grade district track championships. We did that last year. It was a lot of fun. We're going to do that again. All of our kids from the 3 elementaries will come over pretty much for the day. Brian McKennis, who was a longtime teacher at Talent Elementary, is our coordinator of that, and we'll have about 20 kids helping us out there. Our kids are also helping at all 3 of the elementary field days in the next week, so we're really pleased with that we can be part of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I see that Amy from Sodexo has joined us virtually. Amy, did you want to share anything? There she is.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. I apologize that I'm not there in person. It happens to be a board meeting on month end when I'm also balancing working in 2 kitchens now, trying to keep them led for the end of the year. So I don't get a lot of time to make sure I get all of the Sodexo paperwork done. So that is what I'm doing now. However, I wanted to join just to hear everything and to kind of tell the board and the community more about our summer plans for food service. They're all coming together really well. We're going to have a huge summer program. It's going to be, I think when I looked back in CNP from the state, it's going to be as big as it was in 2017. So we're going back to prior to COVID, having all 3 elementaries open with hot meals for the kids available for breakfast and lunch. So we're really excited and hope to see the community. I will definitely get that flyer in your guys' packet for the next board meeting so you guys can kind of see what's happening, where everybody will be, and come join and get some food.
Thank you, Amy. Best of luck with your paperwork.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Anything from the board?
Yes. I have a couple things real quick. Well, I have a lot of things, but we'll just keep it really short. There's a lot of things going on at school right now. I got to chaperone the 5th grade camping trip that was at Pacifica Outdoor School, and it was amazing. Obviously, the first night was a little rough because there was some sad kids, but it was really awesome to see the kids blossom from like when we first got there and the first night to the last night and the last day that we were there. We got to see some really cool survival. We got to learn survival skills and then see the dogs in action. So that was really fun on the last day, which I guess that doesn't happen all the time. And just a shout out to Sam Glickel for all of that. It was really awesome. And then I got to attend the 5th grade night at the middle school with my kiddo that's going into middle school. And I wanted to thank everybody for that event as well. It was really nice. She's a little nervous going in and then today, hearing how she went today as well. She's very excited now. So good job, everybody.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right. Citizens' comments. No, I'm just kidding. Student rep report. Go go ahead. You guys.
Well, school is ending very soon, so we have lots going on. Right now, we are getting ready for our ASB president election. It already happened, so we're going to have the results soon. So the students had voting and we had speeches. It was really fun. And we just had an assembly, which McKenna will talk about. Also, our leadership class started this thing called Kisses Slips, which is where we get cute little notes that are really uplifting and positive, and we attach little Hershey's Kisses. Well, Miss Robin calls them hugs. And we give them out to kids who may look down or stressed or anything like that. So we're getting ready to do that this week and next week. And I believe that's all I have. So thank you.
Okay. As Brianna said, the year is coming to an end and it's getting real, especially the seniors right now. It's kind of crazy. I'm like getting sad. I'm getting like happy. I just can't even control my feelings right now. It's crazy. And also the assembly, which was the mini 8th grade assembly. It was so awesome. I got to kind of, well, not lead it, but I like got to be a part of leadership and talk in front of the 8th graders, and I love being able to talk in front of people, and so being able to connect with the 8th graders was really special, and I see a lot of potential in them. They have a lot of spirit, and I could see that they're a little nervous but a little excited, so that was really cool, and I'm glad that I got to do that. Yeah, that's about it. I just have a lot of stuff going on, as long as the seniors do too.
I really only have one thing, and it's about the Link Crew Field Day. It was a huge success. It was so much fun. We had of course, we had 2 slip and slides, the giant one and then the one on the ground, which the one, like the normal slip and slide with the soap was such a huge hit. Kids picked up a soccer game. They just grabbed a soccer ball and started playing soccer in the middle of the field. And it was just so much fun. The kids had fun and were getting involved. Some of the adults and staff members coming out watching. Love seeing the kids. I even got Mr. Redding to joust me in the jousting ring, so that was fun. But other than that, all I have to say is thank you to the board for letting me be a student rep. This has been a great experience, and that's all I got.
Yeah, I think I was just talking to Mr. Berry. I think this is officially perhaps your last board meeting because our next board meeting is the 15th and you'll all be out of school. So thank you so much for serving in this capacity and showing up and sharing your voice with the board and letting us know what's going on. We really, really appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead. We have questions for you now, so you don't get off that easy.
You used to be able to do pirate points, and that would be a field day too. Are they doing that this year? I guess not, because everyone's
Well,
looking at me
I
like.
believe for the senior one, they are letting kids help and get pirate points for it, but we also get pirate points for helping out at the elementary school field days.
It used to be spirit points. It used to be whoever got the most spirit points, and it usually is the seniors, but not always the seniors. So I was wondering if the seniors won and when your
Yeah, we did.
field day is. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's on Wednesday. It's after the senior assembly.
Okay, sorry, I asked that. Too complicated.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you again. Really, really appreciate your contributions this year. Thank you. To McKenna and Peyton, best of luck to you. And Brianna, I know we'll see you next school year, but I don't know if you'll be back on the board, but we'll see you around, I'm sure. So, okay. Next is citizens' comments. Did we have anyone in the audience who wished to address the board during citizens' comments? And anyone online, please raise your hand. All right, hearing none, we will move on to the superintendent report. Mr. Berry?
Yeah, I just have one in your packet. You have a resolution to review for action next time. This essentially appropriates monies in the general fund to transfer from support services to instruction, and we have the need to do that just to make sure that we're covered in some last minute ordering. So we'll have that for action next time. I just want to finally a final thought. Just thank you so much to the staff and even the students navigating this busy time. And I know it's an amazing time as a senior, about ready to graduate and head off into the world. So thank you all for being student reps, and thank you for the staff for providing amazing opportunities for kids.
Okay, great. And next, we have a special guest for a program report. I want to welcome Karen Wheeler Clay from the Jackson County Community Long-Term Recovery Group. And Brent, I'll let you sort of take it from there, and excited to hear from Ms. Wheeler Clay.
Yeah, we're really excited, and we've been trying to get them on the docket, and it's they're up and running and have a lot of exciting things going on, and here to support the community. And this board has been instrumental in providing support for our wildfire victims, and looking forward to hearing. So turn it over to you.
Thank you, school board members. Thank you, Brett, for inviting me here today, and thanks for all of your patience as I muddle my way through this. So I am Karen Wheeler Clay. I'm the executive director of the Jackson County Community Long-Term Recovery Group. If you're in the in-group, you know we also go by Jackalturg. It's a mouthful. But yeah, so I'm just here to give you a little bit of an overview about what the Long-Term Recovery Group is, tell you kind of what we've been getting into and up to, and then let you understand where you guys are a critical aspect of what we're doing. So next slide. So long-term recovery groups are a best practice after a disaster, right? So FEMA works with the state voluntary agency liaisons, VALs, to help communities stand up long-term recovery groups. We are that vital connection between local on-the-ground efforts, what we're seeing and experiencing and barriers to recovery at every level across the community, so that we can tell that story and bring that up and out, and continue to secure resources to bring our community as far as possible in this recovery. Do you want to go to the next slide? So our long-term recovery group was officially formed in January of 2021. It began, partners began meeting in the immediate aftermath. Blanca Luz Brossard, former Phoenix Talent School District employee, was our founding president. And so we have been meeting with partners across the recovery, both at the local, state, and national level, to get an idea of what the opportunities are so that we can continue to move the ball down the field. Next slide. So in 2022, one of the functions that we host is the unmet needs table, right? So survivor households meet with a disaster case manager. They come up with a recovery plan in that they are maximizing local, state, and federal resources. And there's almost always a gap, right, to help them fully recover. And so last year, we provided over $2.2 million in funding, supporting 360 fire survivors. And that is leveraging dollars across philanthropic efforts. We also secured funding to provide staffing to hit some of the critical recovery needs that we're seeing. So housing recovery, emotional, spiritual well-being, outreach, and engagement. We recruited additional board members. We now have Laura Millette on our board. Very excited to have her there, and spearheaded and secured funding for a regional long-term recovery planning process. Next slide. This process is called Rogue Reimagined, Rogue Reimaginado, and this is another sort of best practice post-disaster, right? A lot of communities will start it in the immediate months afterwards. We managed to hit 3 different jurisdictions, and so getting 3 different jurisdictions to slow down long enough to collaborate takes time, right? Everyone, including the school district, you guys were working as hard as possible. And so there was a little moment of opportunity, and that's when I sort of pounced and said, hey, we should do this effort. Next slide. So to date, we have over 20 partners signed on to this, and you guys are one of them. So thank you so much, Brent, for following me down this rabbit hole. Next slide. So what is a long-term recovery plan, right? So it is an overarching approach to recovery. It is locally controlled and coordinated. It is based on community, partner, and neighbor involvement. And it is focused on projects that are going to be most likely to contribute to community recovery. So the LTRG, the Long-Term Recovery Group, we are a neutral shareholder in all of this, right? We are just here because we want to make sure that the people who are doing work get the support they need to do as much work as they would like to do and bring on additional capacity, whatever needs to happen, right? So we kind of ended up being this funny little Switzerland to support that neutral convening space. We contracted with Urban Design Associates. They're a firm based out of Pittsburgh, but they were the ones who helped Paradise with their long-term recovery plan. Next slide. So the goal of this entire process has been to measure progress, educate community on the recovery efforts to date, provide an opportunity for additional input, right? Because again, we were all working so fast and so furious that slowing down to really hear what community was saying was a privilege if we were able to afford it, right? Creating one overall blueprint across the burn scar and the community at large so that we can be more resilient and recover, and then also strengthen future grant applications. Next slide. So the 3 steps of this process are to listen to community, and that happens really throughout this entire process. We launched this effort in earnest in November of last year and began gathering feedback, but really this listening happens throughout. The second step is really to explore ideas for recovery projects, and we are really deep into that. We're starting to get into step 3, which is choosing the best path forward. Next slide. So community engagement activities, we've conducted over 40 stakeholder interviews, held 5 public meetings, both virtually and in person, in English and in Spanish. We had an open house event. We've had online interactive platforms for folks to work with. We've also had a community survey that went out, and my goal was 1,200. We're 1,180. We are well within the margin of error. So I feel very comfortable with that result. And then this text bot conversation, you may have seen signs around, say, hello lamppost, like you can talk to a bus stop, right? Like, so we're gathering input from wherever people want to jump in and comment. Next slide. So one of the questions that I worked with Phoenix Talent Schools staff to develop was this one, which is, if your student is enrolled in the Phoenix Talent School District, what supports are important to you? Check all that apply. We had, love repeat, over 600 responses. I can't see that number from here. On the top, under the thing, 600 and something, right under the number 26. 661 people responded to this. Thank you. So yeah, so 661 people responded to this. And what we're seeing is that they want focused energy around reducing impacts of COVID and the fires on student learning, housing, because people want to come back to the school district, right? This was their home, this was their community, it's where they feel safe. Food security, that's a trend across the country, really. Transportation, bilingual fire recovery. No, it's sorry. So this was a really, oh, next slide. It will be organized community because traditionally, this is outlined. FEMA wants to be asked for money this way, right? This is a plan that they outline that they say this is how you get what you want from us. And so in this plan, what is unique for us is this progress to date and parallel initiatives, right? Because it has been almost 3 years since the fires. And so progress to date is really going to show what all we have accomplished in these last 30 some odd months. It is also going to look at under parallel initiatives, things that maybe don't rise to the level of a recovery project, right? Because the recovery projects are things that community is asking for that community's partners are saying is possible, right? So parallel initiatives maybe didn't meet those two measurements. And so they're also going to be categorized as well, because we do have a ton that's being done in this community, a ton of work that will continue to be done. And we want to make sure that we're able to help our community share successes. Recap of the community engagement process, the vision recovery projects, and then a summary of all the feedback that we got. So next slide. All of these projects fall under 3 buckets. Post-fire recovery, which is really looking within the burn scar, right? So we're talking about the Almeda and South Open Chain fires. Long-term adaptation, how do we evolve, right, to keep pace with the increasing risk of extreme weather events, and what we can expect that to look like in our community. And then regional resiliency. What are the challenges that we faced before 2020 that were sort of exacerbated and laid bare because of what we experienced as a community? And so how do we address all of those really complex, sticky, wicked ideas? Next slide. So what is going to be going around community right now is very high level, right? It is not weedy details. This slide is designed to show you what the weedy details will look like in the end, right? You will have a big bucket idea, which is support first-time home buyers. What does that even mean, right? That's a great idea. This is where we get into brass tacks. It will not hit the plan if it is not actionable. It is actionable because it has a project lead. It has identified action steps, and it has a clearly defined budget. That doesn't mean they have all the money, but they know what it's going to cost. So in this case, this is a program that would be owned. The project lead would be Oregon Housing and Community Services. They expect the piece that they need to work on to cost about $60 million, and the feds want to be asked for money in this format, right? So this is how this is designed to help our community tell this story. Next slide. So post-fire recovery. I believe what I tried to do is not show you all 21 projects. There are 21 projects. There's actually 40. But we're moving forward with 21. These are the ones that may be most relevant for your locus of control. I don't know. Now I'm just a nerd. Next slide. Providing for long-term behavioral health services, right? So providing behavioral health services for fire survivors is not a one and done situation, right? And I know that the school district has been working with Rogue Valley Mentoring and has circles and support for all the 6th graders and stuff, but this is with us forever, right? And so we want to make sure that our survivors are supported, our workforce is supported, because realistically, if you were here on that day, we were all impacted, right? And so we want to make sure that together we have what we need to feel supported, safe, secure. Next slide. Long-term adaptation. So again, this is really adapting to our increasing climate events. Next slide. So this one is around fire safe education, right? So there are steps that we can take, right? There is a lot of distance between the wildlands and your front door. And so how do we work together to make sure that that is balanced and that everyone knows how they can, how like feels empowered about the things they can do immediately. And so this is, you know, OSU has a ton of programming in this space. It's not always well funded. There are opportunities to engage schools and kids and stuff in some of these aspects, which can be restorative and touch back on that sort of behavioral health, mental health, well-being. Next slide. Regional resiliency. Next slide. So encouraging multilingual communications, right? We've heard time and time again that people want the information out at the same time, right? The LTRG standard is that communications go out at the same time. We do not send one out without the other. So everything goes out in English and Spanish at the same time, particularly around important communications. And that's sort of a standard that we're trying to carry out. And also making, interpretation translation services available. And then addressing food insecurity, right? Again, these are challenges that we faced before the disaster, and now we're continuing to see the need for that and the growing need for that. So next slide. Expanding transportation options, so safe routes to schools and stuff like that. Looking at how those can dovetail with evacuation routes and evacuation planning. And then embracing sustainable development as the school district tackles, capital improvements things, right? These are opportunities to make some really intentional decisions around how are we building in a way that does not further exacerbate the frequency of climate disasters. Next slide. And then improving local social determinants of health, right? For me, this is really like many hands make light work, right? It includes everyone, everywhere, at every moment, right? You are saying hi to a child. You are, carpooling with someone. You are, helping your neighbor take out the trash. These are all ways that we help each other and improve the social determinants of health. So education is a very key aspect of this. So plenty of work that you guys are already doing, and also tell us where you want to go with this so we make sure we get it in the plan. And so we are continuing to do follow-up interviews with possible project leads on this, and then we are doing a survey for all 21 of the projects. I have paper copies of our survey. Electronic one is waiting for some hiccups to get ironed out. But as soon as that's available, I'll share it out again. But this really is, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you like what you're hearing? Are there things you want to know more information about? But it is going to be at a really high level, like support for first-time home buyers. Sounds great or sounds terrible. You tell us, right? And all of the other projects. So next slide. There will be some physical boards floating around. We're going to be tabling throughout community. This will be one of them. Next slide. It's kind of going to look like this. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Put your dot where you want it. If you want to put all 21 dots under one project, go ahead, right? That's going to help us prioritize projects as they come through. Next slide. The end. Thank you so much for your time. Questions?
Your other board members who's, Michael said it, we get updates, but I guess, what else can we do to be supportive, or what do you need from us? Great work, and how can we help? What do you need?
I think the big thing is, Brent's been such a great partner on this and just continuing to keep the school engaged, right? Because you guys have been such a hub. One of the challenges that we've faced in this recovery is that traditionally, historically, before 2018 or 2019, FEMA used to share their survivor data with long-term recovery groups and communities. Someone somewhere in some Department of Justice made a decision that they weren't going to do that. So our community has been operating blind, right? Trying to figure out who needs support, who needs connection, how do we get resources to people where they're at, right? And so the school district is a big partner, right? Like I understand FERPA. I will never ask Brent to just give me a list of kids I can reach out to, right? But also being able to have that communication so that I can send him information that he can share out through school newsletters and stuff, right? We also have ReOregon coming into our community. And so there's going to be an application process that's opening. And the first phase of that, right, is helping homeowners who could not replace their homes do that, right? So if you are at or below 80% of the area median income, there's going to be a home replacement option, right? That's going to actually get people back home. So whatever we can do to partner, to make those application processes available in the schools is really critical, because we know, particularly for our Latinx students, so many of them are navigating the recovery for their parents. And so how do we provide those supports? So Rosario's been phenomenal. She helped us with some of the community engagement efforts, right? But it's really like so I was part of the evacuation center, and my philosophy there was that I have no right to slow a process down to try to earn trust. There are already partners in community who have that trust. My job is to get them the resources and them the information they need to move that forward. Right. So it's less about what can you do for me and what can I do for you. So
it's good to see you here. I went to a meeting this afternoon that was called by Rogue Climate, and it's about resilience, establishing a resilience hub. And I see a lot of things about like recovery, but there's a need. I see the need, and we agreed in this meeting that there's a need for being prepared for certain things that might come in the future, and making sure that we already have things in place. So when this happens again, which something like this might happen again for sure, to make sure that things go smoothly and people are put in charge. So I just wanted, your name was brought up and the organization was brought up as trying to get a partnership, in another meeting talking about different steps forward to bring those groups together that were really great at different things, and not duplicating efforts, and making sure that everybody hits the ground running when this happened. Unfortunately, I never thought I'd see this in my community. And we would see this probably again. So being ready for that. And I don't know if, I guess my question for you is, I don't see a lot in the slides around preparing for something like this again. So maybe you
that's
could speak to
buried
that.
in the other projects that I didn't
Okay,
slow
I
down to
figured
do.
it was.
Like I have so much time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's absolutely part of the puzzle, right? So we did talk about resiliency and we talked about adaptation, right? So the LTRG specifically, we are working to really formalize the relationship with the COAD, right? Community Organizations Active in Disaster. They have a formal relationship with the county to make sure that they're able to activate all of the nonprofit partners, anyone who, like, again, that sort of get in where you fit in, right? Strategy. But we don't know who does what. And part of that is, right, the COAD, it's been around 14, 15 years. They've never had a paid staff position. And so you're talking about people with big hearts and not a lot of time. And so as many of us know, there's a mountain of work that happens between meetings. And we struggle. I don't think any of you fit that in a 40-hour week. I mean, it's like 120 on average, right? Right. There's a ton of work that has to happen between meetings. And so the LTRG will be hiring a half-time COAD coordinator to help get those structures in place, because the other part of long-term recovery groups, like, never going to have another disaster. Long-term recovery groups are supposed to sunset, right? In communities where these have occurred, they're 3 to 10 year organizations, right? So in places like Florida, they've had an LTRG for like 50 years because they're constantly dealing with hurricanes, right? But for our community, we want to make sure that that institutional knowledge is not lost in that transition. So having that COAD LTRG partnership is really critical. But other aspects of that is like RAC, Rogue Climate, Rogue Food Unites, all of these partners, they stepped up in ways that, like, I don't think any of you thought you were going to do what you did on that day, right? Like none of us thought we were capable of what we accomplished. And we moved mountains, and we'd like those mountains to be a little shorter next time, right? Never going to happen again. And so I think you're right. You're absolutely right. There is some institutionalizing of that knowledge and really understanding. So the LTRG will be, like, tentatively save the date for October 19th. We're going to convene a social services summit, which would include education in that, right? To really look at what have we learned, right? Because there's after action reports that were conducted for the jurisdictions, but that's very prescriptive. We're bringing that sort of softer side into it because we know that all of us carried massive amounts for this response and recovery. And we want to make sure that we're able to apply those lessons learned, dig into what we want to know more of, and get further down the line for that sort of resilience and preparedness part. So, and I hear you guys also got a $1 million grant. So, I wrote one letter of support, But anyways, like those are really critical opportunities, right? And those are like funky partnerships. Like I don't think we would have thought of those 10 years ago. So, yep.
I'm glad you touched on one of the questions I was going to ask you, and thank you for coming again and for catching the board up on the work that you've been doing. I'm glad you mentioned identifying who are helping, because to me that continues to seem like a big opportunity. And I wonder, are there ways for those who have been impacted by the fires, and those folks who have moved out of the area but have a desire to move back, who's housing their information? Do you have contact information for these folks that say, hey, when you have a program that's available for me, please reach out so that I can apply? Or where does that live?
So, the LTRG has a newsletter that we push out, I think every 6 weeks, give or take, so that people can sign up for those. But I think right now, like our best and probably last shot on bringing folks home is ReOregon, right? And so Oregon Housing and Community Services, to their credit, very strategically is going to be pushing out messaging that whether you think you are eligible or not, please sign up. Please sign up, please sign up, please sign up, please sign up. If you are eligible, you will get shown an application. If you are not eligible, we still have your information. Because again, FEMA has not shared this information. And so only so many people applied for FEMA too, right? So that's only one piece of the puzzle. But the other part of that is that the way ReOregon, which is CDBG-DR, Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Funding through HUD, right? The way that is written, they had to develop an action plan. That action plan, the first wave, is for 80% AMI and below, right? If you make 80% of the area median income or below, you are eligible for the first wave of home replacement program, right? But if we can show a need to reassess that, because let's say somehow we've already managed to hit everyone who's 80% AMI and below, and we've gotten them housed and they're stably housed, we now have data to go back to HUD and say, we still have more need and we need to rewrite or modify the action plan in this area. So having that information is critical. And so I think when that application opens, which I think is, I'm not even going to pretend to know a date, it's soon. As soon as that becomes available, everyone needs to apply, right? If you lost your home in this fire, you should apply. Absolutely, categorically.
That seems like an area where our infrastructure with the school district, and then especially with our community care group, where we can help spread the word about that. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is how can we get in front of our people and say, hey, this is opening up, you should apply for this.
Yeah. And there's going to be, so there are partners, and the press release should come out by the end of this week or end of next week, that will clearly outline who in community is assisting folks with those applications, right? People can also do it on their own. If they feel technologically savvy, they can go online, they can do their own application, they can upload their own documents, they can do whatever they need, right? But there will also be 3 entities that will be supporting applications. So if you have someone housed in your school once a week supporting that, that could be an option. Rosario, you could totally figure out how to do it, I'm sure, right? And have a relationship with those 3 organizations, because there's a program administrator at the state level. There's a platform that they're using that it's just going to be a website. You just enter your information, like, here, here's your I-9 or your W-2 or whatever, right? Like get all that stuff uploaded. And that's the hardest part. What we've found for survivors, that's the hardest part is chasing down all this documentation. And there will be a release of information that they can sign so that OHCS can work with the Oregon Department of Human Services to get some of that documentation as well, right? Because survivors have given it to their disaster case managers and like you're bouncing around between motel rooms. How, like, I can't keep track of paperwork on a good day. So, yeah. So we're just really trying to create that no wrong door entry point and like that safety net so people can just get supported into applying anywhere they go. Like I'll go sit at Food for Less.
That's great. Thank you. It gives us something to work with. Really appreciate it. Any more questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming
Thank you for having
and
me.
the work you're doing. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve oh,
Yes. Yeah.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Seconded by Dawn. Any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Next are action items. So the budget committee approved the superintendent's proposed budget presented on May 9th by a unanimous vote. There are 4 actions necessary to adopt the fiscal year 23-24 budget. Each one is voted on separately. So we'll have a resolution to adopt the budget. We'll have a resolution to appropriate funds, a resolution to impose taxes, and a resolution to categorize taxes. And so the first resolution, 23-1, is adopting the budget. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution adopting the 2023-2024 budget as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Polly. Discussion? Again, I just want to thank the team and Yasmin and all the work that goes in. I want to thank our budget committee in the community for coming and supporting this effort. And this is how we make school happen, right? And as the years go by and there are more and more programs to administer and grants and federal funds and all the like, it's a tremendous lift, and our team and our community does a great job. So thank you to all of them. We will now vote. Rebecca?
Yes.
Or Polly?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Rick? Yes. Dawn?
Yes.
I vote yes. The budget is approved. Next is resolution 23-2 for appropriations.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the 2023 to 24 budget as presented. This motion, I'm reading what she already put down there. That's the wrong thing. I move to approve the resolution adopting 23 to 24 budget as presented.
I'll second.
And just for clarity, that's the resolution making appropriations for the 23-24 budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
was reading the second one, which is really, she already read.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's okay. I think we get the gist. Okay. Discussion? Okay. We will vote. Rebecca?
Yes.
Polly?
Yes.
Sarah? Rick? Yes. Dawn?
Yes.
I vote yes. Resolution's approved. 23-3, imposing ad valorem taxes.
I move to approve the resolution to impose taxes as presented.
Thank you, Sarah.
Second.
Replay says Rick. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Rick. Any discussion? All right, we will vote. Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Resolution is approved. 23-4, categorized taxes.
Chairman, I move to approve the resolution to categorize taxes as presented.
Thank you, Rick.
I second.
Thank you, Sarah. Discussion? Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Resolution is approved. Moving on to item J2, resolution 22-11, supplemental budget for 22-23. Mr. Barry?
Yeah, this was presented at our last meeting and it's just, one category is, as for, came up in an audit is to move some funds around and the other is just to make sure we have enough, appropriations in that department.
Thank you. I have a motion.
I move to approve the resolution for adopting a supplemental budget for the 22-23 as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Polly. Discussion? Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Resolution is approved. Item J3, SRO contract for PHS.
I just wanted, it came up about the training and last time about SROs and I think we have some information in there that shares what their training is for to become an officer annually and they get certified.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, happily.
Okay.
I move to approve the SRO contract with the city of Phoenix as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rebecca. Discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
The heading says officer. And so, I was hoping it would say officers and refer to the addition of additional SRO. But this is just keeping the status quo of Phoenix High School at this time.
Yes, it is. And the city of Phoenix understands our desire to increase that program. And they are looking at when they bring in some property into the UGB, they're looking at expanding their police force and dedicating an SRO at least half time to our schools.
Okay.
So, and when that happens, we can amend this.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah, yeah.
Good question, Rick. Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will vote. Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Contract is approved. Item J4, SRO contract for TMS.
Like to make a motion.
Okay,
I move to approve the SRO contract with the city of Talent as presented.
I'll second that.
thank you. Thank you, Rebecca and Rick. Discussion? All right. Hearing none, we will vote. Rebecca,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
I vote yes. Contract is approved. It's 7:06. We will take a 10-minute, or 7:07 now. We'll take a 10-minute recess, be back at 7:17. Record show it's 7:18, so we're only a minute off. Okay. Before we dive into the rest of the info and discussion topics, Mr. Nagel had some more questions on the SRO stuff. So fire away, Rick.
And I apologize for not.
Oh, no
asking
problem.
them when you- But I couldn't find my paperwork. But anyway, when we had for discussion under talent, again, it was a one SRO officer, which I understand. The funding is up to $75,000, and my question is, what was it last year?
That's a good question. It was $40,000 last year. And that only got us about 3 days a week.
Okay.
And so this $75,000 will get us 5 days a week. And not assigned other duties. They will be our SRO during that time. Because even sometimes this year when we had this SRO 3 times a week, they were on patrol. So they had to go if they had to take a call. Certainly
Unless there's an
available.
emergency or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
absolutely. So this is an additional officer that is dedicated to as an SRO.
And my other question, or next question was, how much was Phoenix last year?
Less. I would have to look, and I wish Yasmin was here, but I would say it was probably about half. We end up supplementing talent more than we do Phoenix.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. Information and discussion facilities and bond update. John's been so patiently waiting once again. John?
Good evening, Chairman Campbell and board. It's always a pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, it looks like the sun wants to hit my forehead, so hopefully I'm not blinding anybody. I can't seem to get out of the sun. So I'm gonna, basically, I want to talk a little bit about the design for the Culver complex tonight and kind of give you an update on what's been discussed, what's planned, and that should be, unless there's questions on it or other things, that should be it. So we met with ZCS, the civil engineers, on May 17th at the high school library. ZCS led the conversation, explained the process for designing the master plan, and then explained that there would be compromises along the way because, well, if you saw the laundry list of hopes and dreams, you would know our property's only about half as big as it should be, or as it would need to be. They explained to everyone that the rough drawing that we had done by CSA for the was just a vehicle to get the property into the UGB, and then now we're starting with a blank slate. So everything, all of that what everybody thought was probably going to happen is no longer. It's all up in the air. We're starting from scratch, and it's based on these meetings that we're having. This meeting was with all of the stakeholders, and when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about like Boys and Girls Club, athletics, both district and community athletics, ODP, farm to school, the neighbors in the area, and Little League. Trying to think of some of the other ones. Anyhow, a lot of those people were there, not everybody, but a lot were. And they asked everyone to identify the stakeholder group, basically so we could nail down the groups to make sure we're meeting with all the right people. They asked, well, I already mentioned the group, sorry. Then they asked each group to identify their must-haves, what they thought was a must-have for this site, what was a hope, what was a dream, and their concerns, which they've compiled. It's not, basically I have a list of every, so they haven't quite organized it yet. That's why I didn't bring it tonight. They have set up with each of those stakeholder groups future meetings. The Boys and Girls Club is on June 20th. All of these meetings will be held in the library. They'll be meeting with the Boys and Girls Club on June 20th at 5 o'clock. They'll be meeting with athletics, both district and community and club athletics on June 14th from 3 to 5. They'll be meeting with ODP and Farm to School on June 14th from 10 to 11. And the neighbors, they'll be meeting with them on June 13th at 5:30. I will also say that I met with the city with CSA to kind of do a like what they were going to expect to to annex the property into the city. And now CSA and ZCS are working together in concert. I was in a meeting with them earlier this week to talk about everything that's been accomplished leading up to this point and what needed to happen, and determine roles of who was going to be like working with the city to do the annexation. And then also, if something were to happen that slows this progress down with the city, we outlined what steps we could do or could be done to work around that and keep the momentum going on this project. We're hoping to use ESSER 3 funds at least for a portion of this, and we need to do that before those funds go away. So keeping the forward progress going is super important to everybody. And we laid out some timelines that will be happening over the next few months. We hope to have a final master plan by the end of September. And prior to that, we'll be meeting with the board to get input, show the plans and discuss them and make sure that they align with the board's wishes as well. You are certainly welcome to join any of those meetings that I mentioned. And if you are, let me know and I'll actually send you the invite. Okay. Are there any questions?
So my question is on the FFA and the barn area. You did not mention them as one of the partners, and so I wanted to make sure that they were. That was an accident of not mentioning them.
That was definitely an accident, and they are included in one of those groups.
Okay.
They were at the initial meeting, and they are included. When I was looking at the scheduled meetings, I just kind of took the title, and there are other stakeholders in there too. But so yeah, they are part of that, a large part of it actually.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, and the bus barn, I should say.
Okay, yeah, that was my next question.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I guess my other question is, if worse comes to worse, some of those areas we do have ESSER funds for, but we wouldn't be able to even use them because we can't do any development at all if this is not incorporated to the city. Is that correct? Or could we do updates to the bus barn? And I'm thinking no is the answer.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
We discussed the steps around if the city if that somehow stumbles, because it's in the UGB, we actually have the ability to go straight to the county, because right now it falls under their jurisdiction. Of course, we would love to cooperate with Talent, and that would be the preferred way, because then we would go back and still try to bring it in. But we did discuss how could we make sure we keep this forward momentum going, and at least get phase 1 of the project done with ESSER funds.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking if there was existing, pieces like the FFA barn or the bus barn or, existing trails or whatever, we could at least do something with the money instead of just let it leave. And I know that you never want money to leave. So I have
it.
you are going to be doing the best you can.
I will say Brent and I have both been reaching out to other parties and stuff looking for grant opportunities. And in fact, in the meeting I was at with Polly, they told us about another upcoming potential for a grant opportunity, and I asked them if that might be applicable to our need, and it would actually be some recovery type money for to help us with that resiliency hub part. And it kind of fits in with the dreams and wishes of the group that met, the thing that I mentioned in the meeting. So I'm definitely, and I know Brent is as well, we're investigating every opportunity to give us a complex that serves the district's needs for years to come, and with the community's needs. I'm sorry, not just the district.
I don't really have a question for John. This is just a put out there. I think there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And the more I think about it, as everybody knows in this room, I am a huge overthinker. And so I'm thinking ODP, that's going to change busing. And so I think that when we get closer, either a program report or maybe, I hate to say this, a work session, because I think there's so many pieces to think about on this thing. And I know that I'm going to have a lot of questions when things start getting narrowed down. I'm going to start thinking of little tiny pieces. So I'm just putting that out there that I'm going to have 20 minutes worth of questions probably.
And that's fine. We love we love questions. But maybe we can start designing an outline on how we'll do transportation, how we'll do food service, how we'll do students with disabilities in the ELD, potentially what type of support services may, and start kind of drafting a plan on what we think might be able to work if we house a school out there. Thank you for bringing that up.
I also know that ZCS brought up in the meeting with us that as we get closer to that final master plan, that they really desired to kind of have like a work session with the board to answer any questions, work through any potential problems and find solutions. So we haven't scheduled that yet, but it was definitely on their list of things that they wanted to happen along this way.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that they were on that. I think it's really important so that we can answer not only my own personal questions, but questions that we get from the public as well. Thank you.
And the Boys and Girls Club is still heavily, I know you mentioned them, but I think one of the things that I've seen in headlines and media and things like that is calling it the Culver Sports Complex. And that's what it is now. And that's great. But in addition to that, one of the things that I know I'm passionate about and many of my board colleagues share is expanding our after school offerings and creating more equitable situations there. And also, another thing I'm curious about is it seems like there's always more need for after school and there's always more need for preschool offerings. And so I wondered if you guys could speak to where we're at with that so far. And I mean, if we're communicating visions, I can definitely say it would be great to make sure that we have space to address those two areas.
Yeah, I can share with you. I mean, Greg Rowe's been here before with Boys and Girls Club, a huge supporter of our district, and looking at expanding up to, I think he said 350 students if they build a complex that for after school events. If ODP does move out there, it will open up that facility for preschool. I was talking to Ms. Wheeler earlier, and part of the long-term recovery group is really helping the workforce, and a big challenge of getting people back to work is childcare. And so looking at what options are, and that means preschool, it means after school care, things of that nature. And we know Boys and Girls Club is an affordable option for many of our families, and always has a wait list. So, yeah, I think when we get to even funding and grants and opportunities for helping our families enter the workforce, and if it's a child care issue or preschool or things of that nature, that'll be a big ask. So.
Any more questions for John? Becca?
I don't really have a question, but also sort of a just information I'd like to pass along. Allie from the Talent Maker City came and talked to me the other day and told us that they're applying for this grant and that we should also look into it. It's called the Peers Grant, PEIRS or something like that. So I just wanted to pass that information along.
It's actually on my list. There's two of them that we haven't applied for yet that I've been investigating to see how we could apply. When you put those grants out, it's for specific stuff. So it's as we develop this master plan, it will help us develop the guidelines for those grants, so we can see how we can fit this all together like a puzzle. I will say, just so Sarah knows, because she hasn't asked the question and I kind of expected it. Yes, we are looking at other options, and no, this is not about the pool. We are looking at other options, potentially a collaboration with the city to put tennis courts and do that. But I've also asked ZCS to look at a couple of other options that I came up with. So we'll be evaluating that and can, because like I said, there's so many desires for that space that we want to try to get everything that the district that serves the district and the community for years, but we may not be able to put it all there. So we are looking for other options and ways that we can meet the needs.
Terrific, thank you. Also, just as a little component of that, anything that's collaborative with the city or county as well, then opens up more options for the community to be able to use that space. Because for security purposes, it may not be available all the time when the community wants to use it. So anyway, just to that end. And not to totally zig, but before I forget this question, which is, how are things going with the playground, or I'm sorry, activity space at the high school?
So the playground, the delivery of the equipment was delayed, but it's due in I think it's by the 10th of June. The installer is ready to come install it. And then it'll probably take us, once it's installed, it'll probably take us a couple of weeks to get the surface poured. And then, so I'm guessing that by, middle to end of July, it'll be a functional fixture at the high school.
Terrific, thanks. And it can't be on the field, right? When they deliver, will it be able to fit where it is going to go? Because graduation's there on June 10th. So if you've got playground equipment showing up prior to June 10th, it might, if I was Anna Redding and she and I share similar personality traits, I might be freaking out a little bit that the activity things were showing up.
Okay.
Okay.
No, it wouldn't. One, we would store it in the warehouse. It wouldn't go up there. And when it shows up, it's not like this massive thing that you just put into place. It shows up in pieces on pallets. So we would store it in the warehouse. Because we are actually, I didn't really do a shout out, and I should. My grounds guys have been working very hard to make sure that our grounds are ready for graduation, because we want to show all of the families how proud we are of our students and our facilities and everything that this district accomplishes. So a big shout out to my grounds guys.
By the way, don't check the weather report for the 10th. That will also. I texted Brent today and I said, is it even graduation season if we're not predicting rain on graduation? Yes. Okay, any more questions for John? Thank you, John, so much. We appreciate that and all the work being done and exciting stuff happening. in the
Yeah.
district.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
All right, you too. Okay, financial update. Brent?
The only thing I have for financial update is that wildlife security funding adjustment is going through. The Morgan Allen from COSA was on that. There was a hearing. I don't even know when that was, maybe yesterday, to make us whole on that and to actually potentially expand that ask. As you may remember, for 3 districts, well, kind of 4, there was $25 million, and the actual cost is turning out to be $35 million. So making that adjustment. So, so appreciate Pam Marsh and her work, and Morgan Allen from COSA for just staying on it. That's it.
Questions?
Brent said wildlife. So we're down here discussing, was it wildlife or wildfire? Maybe.
I think I've said wildlife a lot.
You
but
did?
yeah.
I was like, wow.
Wildfire Relief Fund. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, next is a legislative OSBA update. And just before we dive in, a reminder to let Denise know if you'd like to attend the summer board conference. And if you do, please let her know if you'd like to attend the pre-conference and when you'll be arriving, all that good stuff. So I know you can read that, but just a plug for that. And then with that, I'll turn it to Dawn or Sarah or both.
I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. And just a reminder, the summer conference is usually more of a you'll learn no matter what, but it's more of a beginning. It's not as in depth. It's more of a beginning layer for a lot of new board members, especially on election year. So this is an election year, and there's a lot, we were fortunate, but there's a lot of new board members in the state. And so a lot of it's going to be learning about being a board, which some of you missed parts of that because there wasn't any conferences during it. So there's probably good tidbits, even though you've learned the hard way along the way, but there might be some good tidbits. And they also have a program where you can do like bronze and gold and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of fun. It kind of jazzes it up a tad. So you can try that. And they seem to work out. I don't know. To me, it's fun. Like, I get something for attending this meeting. So especially if I can't decide, it's a good way to decide like, oh, I'll just work on my gold or my bronze or whatever. So Sarah and I are trying to, move up the ranks here. It's taken us a while.
On that topic, make sure you sign the thing because I've been going to these things for years and I don't even think I'm a bronze yet, even though I should have the platinum or whatever. So make sure you sign the paperwork to get your credentials.
I usually sign no matter if it's mine or not, because so if you're in the meeting, this is good because you're in the meeting and it's for platinum, but you're only gold. Those meetings stay there. So you can have like 4 points in gold, 3 points in platinum, 1 in silver, and then they just add them up as you go. So don't go, oh, well, that's above my rank. It's not above your rank. Don't waste your time. Do it, fill it out, and get points for it. Okay. Legislation. As most of you already know, the Senate Republicans have walked out, which has some good and some bad. Some of the good is 1045 is dead. 819 is dead. There's a lot of bills that we were really worried about, and they're not going through. So that's the good part of it. It looks like there's plans where the Republicans will come back for budget, so that would be good too, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But you never know until the day that everyone's supposed to show up. So everything has kind of been like a stalemate lately. OSBA is pushing for everyone to let their representatives know about 10.2, but it looks like 10.2 is pretty much locked in of what our budget is going to be. So now it's just kind of a waiting game to see. There is some parts where during the after, Sarah might be able to explain this better. After things are passed, sometimes there's time to like finesse the law. And so people will try to finesse in what they didn't get before. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on. In the past, we've seen last minute changes to bills and everyone's like, whoa. So I think we need to keep our eye on that. But other than that, everything's kind of slow. Sarah, do you have anything to add?
State school fund.
Well,
Right
it's
now-
looking like 10.2.
Right now, it's looking like 10.2.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And working with Greg, who's the legislative advocate for the district, really still advocating for 10.4, which was presented by the Republicans, and it didn't pass at 10.4, but looking at potentially trying to maybe even get more than the 10.2. So there's room and potential opportunity. And because of that really good revenue forecast, I think it helps our wildfire resources in addition to fully funding the state school fund. And then the only other, I was just gonna make a comment on the summer board conference. I was excited to see the board at the last conference, right after we had talked about having a superintendent agreement and a board review. That particular workshop wasn't available, and it will be at the summer board conference. So I was glad to see that was something that we've talked about.
Have things to add real quick. So the OSBA is having our annual, like, I don't know what you call it, meeting. I'm going to be missing it, by the way, because it's during SOU graduation and Father's Day weekend, and why they have it that weekend, I don't know. But anyways, we will be voting on the Rural Caucus. And so that should be a yes vote, I hope, from OSBA. Also, some of the OSBA, I guess, board of directors in OSBA, like my position, did not win their elections. So there will be some spots. The one main one is the treasurer secretary did not win, which is Bill Graup. So they'll vote in a temporary one on June, and then they'll vote in someone else for in January, because that's the way the rules say. So anyways, there will be some changes in the OSBA board of directors due to the elections, and hopefully the Rural Caucus goes through, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
When is that vote supposed to be for the state school fund? I know they don't know the exact.
Well,
what
the
is
session ends on the 25th by
Okay, by the 25th.
by state constitution, I think. So
Rumor is no. I mean, Michael's correct, but rumor is no. Rumor is that they won't do the budget. There's a talk about a cooling off time, but the governor has said she's not, that it ends and she wants them back on Monday to do the budget. So they're saying probably around 3 days, but 3 to 5 days after the 25th. So somewhere at the beginning of August, I'm guessing, but I don't 100. I'm looking at them to see if they've heard any more better details than me.
Yeah, if the Republicans don't come back and the session ends, then it'll be, the governor will declare a special session at some point to do budgetary
work, so.
And if that doesn't happen, where does that leave entities that are on the fiscal year beginning July 1st? Like a shutdown? Is it a government shutdown?
No,
or-
no,
Oh,
no.
okay. Do we need to raise the debt ceiling?
I'm confident that they will get back in special session and appropriate the funds for, the needed services fairly soon afterwards. And you might, how it impacts us is we might miss a potential SIA or high school success payment, but we should get double payment there pretty quick because schools get double payment in July.
So I was going to ask, because they passed the continuing resolution, so the school district will get the double payment in July, but through September, we're only going to get 9.3 because the 10.2 or the 9.9 hasn't passed. Are we going to be okay? Okay.
We'll be with our ending fund balance. We will be fine, but we're hoping that that will pass fairly soon in that special session. So get that appropriate.
Fun times in politics. Okay. It's only kids hanging in the balance. No worries. Okay. Thank you for that update. Next we have Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee update.
Yeah, I just might turn it over to Kelly as she gets a microphone. But I just want to commend her on an organization. It was Friday before a 3-day weekend, but we had 2 sessions of Foundations of Equity, just part 1. And some of you attended. Thank you for being there. And it just went great in the morning with elementary, in the afternoon with secondary. And so thank you for Kelly and her team for putting that together to establish some foundations in common language. So I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Good evening, board. I'm happy to be here. Just to build on that, we had about 75 people at each of the morning and afternoon sessions, which was really excellent. That last minute, like not realizing it was not a work day for a couple of our staff here. We'll do another session in August. The idea is, right, this like common language foundation, regardless of experience and regardless of your opportunities to do some of your own equity work, we need to build that foundation in the same room together. So we'll do a second session in August for any new staff, as well as anyone that wasn't able to join us. And again, we'll do a makeup session and then a second. I'm really looking forward to that. The big thing that I'd like to share is the work of our EDI committee this year has been looking at the equity policy. We've had, as you've heard along the way, really robust conversation, really a lot of voice and involvement. And I think a great benefit of that is that our committee feels that they truly had a voice and in this experience of what that looks like, what equity looks like, and how we measure that, and how we see progress along the way. I have gotten some really great feedback from members that feel like the process we went through, which seemed a little bit laborious and time-consuming, really allowed for voice. So what we have for you tonight is some recommendations. One is on the equity policy, a slight change of order, and then the other is the AR. Would you like me to help guide any questions through that? Or do you want me to keep talking? I have a few things to add.
Yeah, maybe you can just add what you have in, and when we get to those sections, you can answer any questions.
Okay, great. Can I use my computer?
You bet.
I should have printed it out, right? Okay, so the district equity policy, as you might recall, the committee that worked through this policy a couple of years ago really personalized that for Phoenix Talent. It is not the template provided by OSBA and that you will see in a lot of the district policies. It's very personalized around belief statements and vision for Phoenix Talent. Fabulous. The question really was, how do we measure our work and effort around this? The committee looked at this policy recommendation, and under each of those items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really looked at how that might be measured. In that work, it got a little long and lengthy, and the recommendation from OSBA was really that this looks like an AR on how we act on our policy. The one recommendation they wanted to make in the actual policy is the order of those statements. That number 1 that you see in blue was previously number 5. And so no change in language is recommended, simply that they really thought that the importance of putting that at number 1 was the reason for why it might be first thing on the list. Any questions about that piece? Hearing none, I will move on. Okay, the equity policy AR. Initially, like I said, it was really that kind of statement and then an addendum along the bottom for each one. If we did it right, number 1 on policy and number 1 on the AR are connected. That's the one downside of having the AR and the policy a little separate, right? So the policy spoke to narrowing the gap, and this measurement piece would be a way in which we would do that. If you were to see an equity policy that the OSBA recommended equity policy and that's adopted by many districts, you will see a lot of common language in our recommendations on the AR and the policy recommendations from OSBA. That is one piece that we missed when we created our own policy. So one you might want to look at is just so each one of those should correlate. Have 2 pieces, but one is sorry, my microphone's kind of being funny, huh? Okay. Okay, let's see. So a couple that were kind of additional or added is number 4 there, invite and include a diverse group. That's one of which they wanted the 2 pieces together. Another is number 7. So 6 and 7 previously spoke to professional development, curriculum, instructional practices. They felt that should be separated between professional development and then curriculum and materials. Okay, so one of the things that we shared on Friday during our Foundations of Equity is really the force behind this is really an opportunity for us to push us forward. It's a momentum for us. We would like to kind of have this be our next step in the equity work around these 7 strategic priorities and how we what current actions are happening that contribute to each of these and what would our future actions be. And that can be some work of our administrative team, of our board, of our EDI committee into next year, really using these 7 as guideposts and helping us find a roadmap along the way. And it also builds common language. When we talk about Foundations of Equity and bringing all staff together in one room, we can use the same language around those really important strategic priorities. So I made a really pretty graphic that is meant to be, sometimes when things get too wordy, it's hard for us to remember what it is. So we just used, will you pass those down for me? Thank you. We just used just some common phrases. So when we say, right, like if everyone had an elevator speech and could talk about what are the 7 priorities of equity that our district is working on, we might not remember this really big phrase around provide every student equitable access to high quality curriculum support facilities. We aren't going to be able to have staff around the district speak to that easily, but they can speak to our work is to narrow the opportunity gaps. So that's some of the work that we're looking at doing here and how it can propel us forward and have that common language. So anyone in the district, when any building can talk about what we're working on towards equity. And our EDI advisory committee is open for interest around our voices and representation so that we can look at our committee representation next year. Okay.
Very good. Thank you. I think perhaps the best path forward is to just go through in order here on our agenda, starting with the policy itself. So knowing that the policy largely itself is pretty much the same, other than moving item 5 to item 1, correct? So any questions on the policy itself, Kelly? Okay, great. And then the AR, this is new. So this is taking the work of the equity, the EDI committee, and something that I think was discussed heavily when we passed this 2.5 years ago, was we need more teeth. What does this mean? What does this look like? What specifically are we doing as a district? And so this, I love the outcome of that work of turning it into an AR that really outlines how we do that. So what questions or comments do you have on the AR itself?
I have a lot, and I'm wondering if we should go, I don't know if it would be easier for people to just go down the list and everybody ask their question about 1 and 2 instead of, that's what I'm suggesting. I'm sorry, I'm not the board chair, but that's what I'm suggesting that we do.
Sure.
It might be easier than like piggybacking all around. So
Yeah.
that's my suggestion on how to deal. And I don't have
Okay.
a question on every single one. I'm just on some of them.
Okay, so on item 1, want to start there? On the
Sure,
AR?
I'll start there. So first of all, I think very visually. So this was my only concern with the words means redistribution resources. So my brain thinks of, we've all seen that, the kids at the fence, the boxes and that. And so I'm just like, why are we redistributing the boxes? Why aren't we getting rid of the need for the boxes? And so that was kind of my like, why are we redistributing? Because to me, when you redistribute, just like that showing the one, somebody, the tall kid may be in a wheelchair next week. So it seems like it becomes a chaos picture behind the scenes, and the people who need sources, it's changing, and the people are trying to, it just seems like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of movement and a lot of work. And so I guess my question is, my question is like, what is that really a lot of work to redistribute? I mean, and why did the words redistribute sources come up? Because to me, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, and I'll just give you an example of how this plays out in our district. And we started this several years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. When we're talking about redistributing or looking at resources, we look at our schools with the highest need. When we look at test scores, attendance, and potentially behavior, and we have redistributed resources per student. For example, Phoenix Elementary gets a larger per student allocation than our other schools, and so we've been intentional about that. So that's how that plays out as far as reallocating or redistributing resources in that sense. And I don't know if you want to add anything.
I would add, like, another example might be staffing. When we look at highest need schools or highest need students, that might be redistributing staffing. The staff ratio might be different in one situation versus another. I think that's another way that we redistribute. Our most experienced teachers with our students that have the greatest need is another example.
And I think I see where you're going with that. And I think I just sort of had a light bulb moment. Redistributing resources doesn't necessarily mean that that's all we're doing. That could be a means to your point of eliminating barriers. Redistributing resources can be towards the goal of eliminating barriers. If you use that visual where they take the fence away, we can redistribute resources to stack the boxes, or we can redistribute resources to remove barriers that create equitable situations for our students.
And that's what I was thinking. Why aren't we removing the fence?
Yeah.
But it also seems like a negative thing on a positive AR. And so it
Mhm.
just kind of hit me wrong. Like you're
Even with-
taking something away, which is a negative thing. And if your whole purpose is to make sure all kids succeed, then someone's not succeeding because you're taking something away. This is how my brain works. I'm not saying this is what we're doing. I'm saying this is how I read it. Was you're taking away from somebody, so now not all students are getting what they need. So I was just wondering about the wording of it just kind of hit me weird. I don't know. I'll marinate it, but okay.
So I agree, and I appreciate the illustration of staffing and resources. My concern might be programs, like potentially underserved tag or special needs, or a beginning program like tennis is growing. So are we really looking at, in the redistribution, where are the district's priorities in meeting every student need? And I understand it's big picture and that. So, but it is a little the redistributing is a little concerned.
Yep.
From that perspective.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, understanding the district's priorities and what you would potentially be pulling from, or I mean, in an overall equity picture.
Okay.
I think, it's interesting. I got this policy in the AR, as you all did, with the agenda packet. And then I had an opportunity to attend that training last Friday. And I was thinking along the same lines of you, Sarah, is how do I explain this to a community member to help them understand that this does not mean your child's not going to get what they need in service of another. How do I explain that to somebody? And attending that training really gave me a light bulb moment to say, well, that's the definition of equity, is redistributing resources in order to make sure those who are traditionally underserved have the same opportunities as those who aren't. And so it's a little bit nuanced, but that is the definition of equity, is that redistribution of resources. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I just might offer, and I hear you and I understand kind of the connotation of that. So we may, you may want to consider if we scratch out even when this means redistributing, we just go allocating available resources to, and so that we're just allocating available resources to ensure in order to ensure underserved and underrepresented students are supported. So that could be a recommendation that we bring back to the board.
Yeah, because this one's really about narrowing the opportunity gap, and that's still.
Meaning of it, and I got the philosophy of it. I'm just a very visual and like word for word. And so it was just, I just didn't want, especially, this is a small community and someone's like, well, they took away the band teacher, but now they got, the culinary teacher's whole thing. And it's like, because of your equity policy. And it's like, no, that's not how it works, because of other things. But so that's kind of my, I don't like negative language. So sorry. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah.
Anything else on number 1? Number 2?
Yeah, I have something on that.
Okay.
Number 2.
Okay.
Well, I see the word audit, and I mean, who does it? Who's going to audit it, and what's involved in the audit, and who's going to pay for it, and all that group.
Okay, so you'll see this is about disaggregated data, and all equity policies are going to say something about that. We use the word audit, really meaning like take a deep dive into the disaggregated data and really look at how all of our subgroups are happening. And the committee really wanted to look at both district data, school level, and they even used the language classroom level, really a deep dive.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that we hire somebody.
Right.
And I know auditors are charging a lot these days. But it doesn't mean that. We also have a platform where we can get this, that we can pull this data pretty easily. And under Kelly's leadership, actually partnered with the ESD. And I don't think anybody else has that available Google sheet that really tells us we can disaggregate data
Right.
on a push of a button, which is amazing. And they've taken it this year to build that in cooperation with our district. So that's what that means. And it's not going to cost, we're paying for those platforms anyway. And so
And then I would say our principals are already doing this, right? They already do this with school level teams around what's happening in with our students in schools. And then our administrative team, right? That the people that do this already, it's really just a purposeful, intentional.
Okay, sorry. This is not a question, it's just a suggestion. When we do our JAB, maybe not this year, but next year, I think it would be very helpful for myself to see what the equity group or committee says, because we hear building by building of underserved population and how things are going. And it would be really helpful at that meeting, I think, for me, and I hate to give you guys more work, but to also hear that information too, because I think it would tie nicely in together. But that's just my suggestion.
Great.
And I didn't necessarily have a specific suggestion of the time frame, but that was one item I felt was missing, was just for an accountability standpoint. I wanted to see something about presenting this data to the board in that item number 2, whenever that happens. So I don't know if that's something you can, and again, I think it's tough, right? Because the thing I'm trying to keep in mind is this is a year-long endeavor by a group of people to come up with these things. And so the last thing I want to do, and I don't think anybody desires to do this either, is completely undo the spirit or the intentionality of the work that was done. But to me, I just felt like a statement in there that says, we're going to present what our findings of that information to the board.
I would say the
be
committee
fine.
would be highly in favor of that in the transparency of what that looks like.
Yes.
and when we do the annual agenda items, it can live there wherever we want to put it.
Yep.
This statement could just say, conduct yearly audits and reporting of comprehensive district. Yeah,
perfect.
Report to the school board. Might suggest, very explicitly.
It also could potentially give an opportunity to show the measure of growth
Absolutely.
and what's happening, because we hear from each school, or we hear from the elementary schools as a group, because they're tracking together in following curriculum. But it also gives that, in addition to that accountability, those measure points of this is what we saw, and then this is what we did, and then as we move through, reminders of how we've seen that resulted out.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Item 3. Go ahead. You can kick us off each time.
Stop things. So I attended your meeting and I thought it was great. I talked to some staff afterwards, and the 3, I think 3 is great. My only thing is staff said, I like this one, and I think we have some practices that we've done that are not equitable, and they've bothered me for a while, but I don't know what to do about it. So I guess my question is how, and you talk about reviewing existing policies and practices, and is there going to be a way, I guess, where staff could say, we really would like to review this. I've had concerns about this for a while. This person had concerns about it for a couple of years, which is like, oh my gosh, what, and I didn't have an answer on what for them to do. I mean, my regular answer is go to your principal. That's what I always say. And so I'm like,
Right.
have you talked to your principal? And so I guess I think this is great, but maybe having something where if something is bothering a staff member, I'm guessing dress code maybe, or some procedures like that, that they can kind of have an outlet instead of waiting for you guys to get to it. And I know you're doing a lot, but I think that, I don't know, it's just a suggestion.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I think, handbook's a great example of something that we've dove into a little bit, but a lot more to do on that. I think the mechanism for how we do this needs to be determined by the administrative team. And I think something we could do, actually thought about, like, there's a way that someone might report a Title IX concern, and they can do so in a kind of a generic way. Perhaps that's something we could do with an equity mailbox.
Be great. I think there's a desire and a need for that amongst the staff. So yeah, great. Anything else on 3? Okay, number 4. Anything on 4?
I'm going to confess 4, it took someone to explain it to me. Invite and include a diverse group of voices to support and enhance student success. I was like, invite to where? Like, invite to what? But then how she explained it was essentially this is your partner groups, right?
Exactly.
They're coming to provide music and symphony and Latin dancing, or right. And so understanding that, but initially reading the sentence, I was confused as to what the outcome was. I'm not going to try to wordsmith it because she did explain it to me, but if you didn't know what it meant, which I didn't,
confusing.
or how it, or again, how it plays out. And just as a broad brush statement over this is very conceptual thinking.
Yep.
Which when I had suggested action verb, I personally was looking for a specific action more than conceptual. So initially reading this, I wasn't seeing what I had initially
envisioned.
hoped
Okay.
for.
Yeah. Okay.
It's helping it to understand that it's looking more specifically when I was looking for, as a board member, specifically, what do you want me to do
Yeah.
when I'm looking at a policy or a budget?
Yeah. How to do it. I think another place this could show up is when we ask for listening session feedback, when we ask for voices, when we ask about experiences, when we ask for surveys, when we kind of try to elevate the voice of our community, elevate our students, our staff, our community, their experiences. I think that lives here too. And this one is a little, like, doesn't come off the tongue very easily.
It's really inviting those diverse group of voices, cultures, and perspectives to the decision-making process.
So perhaps there's a better way to wordsmith that.
Maybe, yeah. Again, it's really hard to say. Hey, you worked on this for a year, so let's go back and. But I guess that's our role.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay. Good thoughts. Number 5.
Audit.
I like
We apparently liked the word audit in our.
Yeah. A CPA sees audit and things start, alarm bells start going off.
I don't know if you heard that. Rick likes the word review more than audit.
Okay, we can review. Conduct a yearly review. So this is really about our staff demographics and diversifying our workforce. And the hope behind this is, what does our staff demographics look like, and how does that compare to our student demographics, and how can we have a baseline and then show growth towards it? That's really what it means. And then that's the action plan. If we have staff leaving, particularly staff of color, for example. Why are they leaving? What can we glean from their experiences that help us recruit, retain, and have a good experience for our staff?
This was another area where I was hoping to see that teeth of reporting back to the
Cool.
board.
Yes.
Accountability piece. So
Yes,
yeah.
I could see this in the annual as well.
Yep.
Mhm.
Great. Anything more on 5?
I'm assuming, and I probably shouldn't do that, but it was kind of missing to me a hiring piece. Like you're conducting on, what we can do to do better, but how can we find like, I don't know. You know what I mean? How can we partner with SOU? How can we partner with the state or ESD and find people to come? I mean, that's part of your exit, but there was nothing of hiring. I don't know how to explain it, but I think everybody is understanding what I'm trying to say.
I was just going to say, this is where I see, right? Like we can't put everything, but this is where I see if this were like an action plan and we said, what are the steps we're taking underneath this? We have, we're working on grow your own pathways where we help support tuition and licensing and enrollment and certification. We have bilingual stipends to incentivize our bilingual staff. There are a couple of pieces that we might say, this is what we're doing. And then what could we also do in future?
Yeah, and I think one of the missing pieces too is we just went through a extensive integrated guidance process that really produced a strategic plan that will have some of those action steps and plans in there.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get a draft. We are at our retreat. We are administrative retreat. We're going to look at finalizing some of that recommendations, and so. But we can certainly get a draft, and maybe we bring a draft next meetings when you're adopting this to see if you have any questions on that, because some of these actions can live there too.
Right.
And recruiting and retaining a diverse workforce is definitely a strategic.
And to go one step further and getting them in the building. So I just wanted to make sure. I'm sure that was the purpose.
Okay. Any more on 5? 6?
Okay, 6 is where we had the most. This took us half the year.
To totally rewrite it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just-
Transparency here. This one was our. This is why it became number 6 and number 7. And I'll just tell you a little bit of the pieces. The committee really wanted strong language to be recommended. There was a lot of interest in using the word required, and even specific training, like for example, implicit bias or cultural humility, really specific either type of professional development or even the name of a professional development program. That list was really long. And so one of the concerns around that was this is a policy, this is an AR that lives in policy. As times change, those professional development needs might change. So listing specific was not a recommendation. So we tried to use some language that might include their intent around equity-based, trauma-informed, culturally relevant, without listing the long specific ones. And this is sort of that work of trying to bring the ideas together and put it together where everyone could really put their stamp of approval on it to bring to you for recommendations, knowing this one's kind of wordy.
I like it.
Oh, yay.
You want me to go first? Okay, I like it. I mean, I really appreciate your work. I was on the committee that did the original policy, and I know this takes a lot of work, and I really, really appreciate it. I don't want you guys to think that I'm picking on you. I just like to have. Policy has saved when I was board chair. Saved me a few times, and I realized how important good worded policy was. I did not know that until I was board chair during the fires and some other situations. And so that lesson has made me like, I really want to make good policy because it's so important. And so I just want to preface on that. So I went to the equity thing, equity training, and I think training is important, 100%. My concern is and it just could be my personal view. I understand this, is that sometimes we don't move it up a level.
Yeah.
And so because we want everyone to be on the same wording, like you said, but some people I think get frustrated. I know a couple of the teachers at my table were frustrated because they're like, we know what a microaggression is. Everyone in our class knows what a microaggression is. When someone says a microaggression, everybody knows that that person just said a microaggression.
Yeah.
But then what? We are stale. And so the students are getting frustrated because you just heard the microaggression. We all know what this was. And the teachers don't know, like the teacher was very like, do I poll the student? Do I say something in front of the class? What do I say? Do I talk to the student that the microaggression was against first? Do I talk to the student, what the order? And we had this huge discussion several times during the questions about, the tools for the teachers and the students and how important it is, because it is a very difficult topic. It's very hard to call people on things. I know my personal life, I've struggled with that. Having a child with a disability and the R word of calling people on that and the language and stuff. And so I think that it's really important for our district to have those tools, because if the teacher's modeling it, then the students can model it at events, at sporting, at jobs. And I really feel like that's the way we change society, is having good role models help us be comfortable in our skin.
Yeah.
So I guess my thing is, I love the training, but I want to make sure we're like making sure we're moving it up. And I know that sometimes we just maybe have to leave a few people behind
Yeah.
on learning the actual words, because we have, majority. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. So I don't know. I don't even know if you need to change wording. I just wanted to give that feedback back, that we need to make sure that we're moving up the steps, because I don't want people to get frustrated on, yes, but now what do I do? Now what do I do? So, okay.
Got it. Okay.
That would also be helpful from a board perspective.
Yep.
How do you want me as an individual board member to utilize this information?
Right.
How do you want me to do it?
Okay.
And then how I guess accountability has kind of been talked about through how are we holding each other accountable to moving towards that goal?
Yeah. Okay. And like, for example, there's a statement in there that says ensure annual trainings occur with all staff. Right? Like that's an accountability piece. How does that happen? Does that happen during in-service? Does that happen during our kind of, online, trainings that we do every year? Does that happen? Like, how do we do like 101, 201, 301?
I'm thinking not just because you took the training doesn't
Right.
mean
Yeah.
that you either have the tool, want to use the tool, know how to use the tool. So in addition to just saying you went to the train, we have that you went to the training. Like how are we holding each other accountable to this direction?
Yeah.
Is that called scope and sequence? Is that the right term for that?
Yeah, and I would just ask for a suggestion. How do we do that? I mean, besides just, having the courage and the tools to be able to, step in and address inequities, but I'd ask the board for any suggestions that they may want, and we could certainly do that. As far as the tools, I think part 2 comes in with really interrupting bias and as it happens. And so we did that work with DL Richardson with the middle school last year, and some with the high school. And then Charlie will do that again for part 2. So
yeah. And also like
we're building this capacity within each school. Like Rosario, for example, will attend coaching for educational equity. Nancy did that last year. I did that last year. And the idea is that in each school, we really have champions that can help support the practitioners when they encounter situations in the classroom and what should I do, and people that can help us talk through what that looks like. We also are hoping to kick off, I don't mean to say a campaign, but really additional layer that would be like speak up at school, where we can give some more tools to our school staff when they hear and see and how to interrupt, and kind of a little like flip card, right?
It's maybe something that at an OSBA conference, from looking at it from a board level, right? Because we have a specific lane and responsibility that is probably more conceptual and policy development. So it may or may not look different for us, but what are the tools that we as a board member can utilize?
Yeah, and as I reflect on this, one thing I may just offer as a perspective to keep in mind is that this is a starting point. And if I've learned anything about equity, is that work is truly never finished, and there's never like a yay, congratulations, you graduated from equity. It's a constantly evolving, changing work, because it evolves as people change and evolve over time. And so I just want to acknowledge the fact that we're even having this discussion and that we're considering adopting even this level of prescriptive language about how our district thinks about and acts on equity is a big step. And it's a starting point that I think we'll continue to build upon to address some of those things. I mean, great thoughts, right? What does that look like? What does the board even suggest? I don't know that we have all those answers yet, and that's the beauty of this work, is that it's never truly finished. I think the important thing is that we continue having these conversations, and that these sort of questions and accountability and statements are infused within the work that we do as we do it, with that acknowledgement that it's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be the pursuit of mastery in mastering this work. And what we have in front of us right now is a years-long effort by a committee that truly is a starting point that is, I feel, a good starting point, but certainly has opportunities and room to continue growing. And that's the work. That's the work that we do. So with that, how about number 7? Anything on number 7?
I don't have anything on number 7, but I do want to say that there is something we can talk about later at a work session or something. Is there is boards that have the lenses of different, what we could look at and tweak to ourselves, that says, does this policy XYZ? So there is that out there, and that might be something at convention when you're at one of the things. And I can't remember, I'll start writing it down when people say at OSBA I have this policy, and I'll do better so I can write down what school that is, so I can bring that back and we can kind of look over those, if that would be helpful.
Great.
I just might add on number 7, you've heard Tiffany Lambert present, and we've had the good fortune to have funds to be able to adopt curriculum, and they truly have a lens of meeting number 7's and criteria to meet number 7's needs. So it's been great to have the opportunity to do that.
I just want to draw your attention to that second sentence that fits with curriculum and opportunity. This came up with access to advanced courses, and how that looking at the lens of making sure that all demographics have access to advanced courses, and what does the representation in those courses look like? Do we have any disparities, and how can we address that? That's the idea there.
It's great. Very good. Anything else?
Well, it makes me proud to serve in a district that's doing this work and to serve on a board that has such thoughtful input and questions and suggestions on these items. And I'm very excited to take this up at our meeting on June 15th. Did you have anything to add?
I just want to clarify, are we changing or do you want this modified in any?
I think with the suggestions we had about your suggestion on was it number one?
Allocating available resources in
Yeah.
number two.
And then
Okay.
just those, I think we can all agree those things that have a specific where we're reviewing for the accountability piece, just a statement of affirmation in there that it's also presented to the board and that we're accountable as well.
Would you
and
like
that the
audit
transfer-
change to review?
Rick, would that make you happy? Audit change to review?
Report? Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you,
appreciate
Kelly.
your questions. We sometimes can get really stuck in the mud and looking at the same thing, and your questions help us think about it from different lenses too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. And so this will be up for action on the 15th. So take a look at that next meeting agenda. If you have any questions or concerns, talk to Denise.